Can you show me where this goes, just so I have some freaking idea what
Sure.
you're talking about?
Yeah. Hold on, hang on. Let me explain with the camera. All right. So, currently, these are terminal checks.
Okay.
These are what make sure that steam boiler pressure don't come back out and then blow lube out the lubricator.
Okay.
So you don't like that. So they have whatever. You have to build up a certain amount of lube pressure before it lets the oil go in.
Checks for the check valve that's at the end of the line.
Correct.
Got it.
Smart man. So you build up more pressure than boiler pressure in the lube line of oil pressure, and then it squirts oil in, and then it builds up again as the mechanical cranks.
Okay.
These ones are leaking. When they're leaking, there's holes drilled in them to mean, okay, the diaphragm is bad, it will now leak. So if they leak, they're bad.
Okay.
And we don't have bits, and they're the wrong ones. So now we have new ones. The big pancakey style that you've seen on the Cumbres and Toltec probably. And in the red plug goes a 3/8 pipe to deliver oil. Or either side, it doesn't matter. They plugged one for us because you put a gauge in to measure what the one side does.
Okay.
But you could fill oil either way. And currently, the thread on the old ones is 3/4 straight thread for the flare copper. And right then the camera died. So, voiceover it is. Yes, the original terminal checks had a 3/4 straight thread flare fitting, and the new ones have a 3/8 NPT, which is a pipe thread that has a slight taper to it, and a different thread per inch. So we need to make adapters that can adapt our lube lines to the new terminal checks. Otherwise, we'd have to run totally new lines with new pipe, and that would have been a lot more work than making new pieces. So in this video, you're going to see the procedure for actually machining one of these adapters that's going to use a lot of different techniques on both the lathe and the mill. Now, I love machining. It's one of my favorite things to do. I've been machining since I was about 7 years old. My granddad had a couple machine tools, and we built some cool things together when I was younger. But I've never really been a master at it by any means. I would deem myself an apprentice machinist, and the last time I really machined anything before this video was 6 years ago when I last worked for the Colorado Railroad Museum as an intern. And so this was really my first project to let loose and go ahead and try and make something. And I learned quite a lot of things along the way, which you'll get to see in this video as well. There's going to be a lot of montage action because I filmed almost everything I did, and machining takes a long time and is relatively boring at normal speed. So hopefully you all enjoy this and enjoy seeing how setups happen and how things are machined in a mill and a lathe. I always think it's kind of amazing because really all you're doing is just slowly crashing a thing into a thing, and the harder thing wins. So it's a lot of fun. Right here, what I am doing is clamping down my piece of bar stock. Now, the first operation that I need to do to make these little thread adapters is make a hex piece of stock, because unfortunately we didn't have any, so I have to make it myself, which means that I get to turn this bar down 6 times in the mill until it looks like a hexagon. And so what I'm doing is clamping it down against the actual way in the table so that it has a really, really good grippy surface underneath. And then that way we can ram the tool into it and take a pretty stout cut without being worried of throwing the part across the shop. It would have been a lot quicker to just have hex stock and start with that, but we didn't have any, and we needed to get this part done very quickly, otherwise 491 wasn't going to be able to run for the harvest haunt, because if you can't lubricate the engine can't run. So the die was cast, and we had to cut our own hex stock and make a fair amount of waste, but that's the name of the game sometimes. Talk to boss man said, do the thing, make the hex. So we do. All right. So the trick now is I'm almost the full width of the cutter, but I think I can get one more full width pass. I never really centered this because I didn't really care. But I'll get it about there. We'll feed it. So I need to go 250. I wonder if I can feed it 50 thou. We'll give it a try. It may not like 50. We'll try it. I'm gonna double check our tightness here. Tightness here, just in case anything's vibrated. Contact. Because the tool pressure's uneven. I was doing 50 when I could bury the whole tool in it, but unfortunately that's not the case. So we'll try 40, I guess. You see how it's starting to cut already? There's at least 10 thousandths of spring in the tool. I'm not happy with that. Maybe I should be smarter about this. I tried 50. I tried 40, I tried 30, and the uneven tool pressures got it all pissed off.
Oh no.
Yeah, because it's not,
You were so happy before.
it's not getting to cut the whole width. Well, I also might have dulled the cutter a little bit, cutting 50 on it. Pro tip for machining steel: high-speed steel tools suck. Get you some carbide. Well, I ran the table up into it because it's a new tool until it started to bite, but apparently I was really getting a lot of bullshit with that last cutter because we're now off the 30,000th cut and it's not cutting anything. It's feeding it.
Well, what's that? Surely the table's flat or flat-ish.
Might have a lot of spring. I pissed off the tool pretty bad. It got hot. It was cutting 50 thou fine, and then the tool got hot, and then it was like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Then it wouldn't even cut 30 thou. So now we got carbide. And proper feeds and speeds. Well, proper speed, of course. I don't know if it's great. It seems good, okay. Yeah, I shifted down to 170. So we're running at 170 right now because this is an ancient 3/4 tool. The rule is you figure out what the cutting feet per minute you need for the material is, and 1018 is somewhere between 65 and 110, so it's over to about 80. And then you multiply by 12, divide by pi, so that gets you inches, but then it gives you,
I like mine.
and then you divide by the radius, or the diameter of the cutter, which is inch and 3/4, and that came out to about 170. That gives you the RPM to cut the stuff. That's what I did yesterday, and that's why I broke an end mill. Or it didn't break, but I probably made it very well, very good. see how we turned out. So I want to be about 1/4 inch, and this is really not a precise way to measure that. I'm within 5 thou. You're not gonna notice that with your wrench. Doesn't matter. So we'll call that done. Spin it and go from there. Okay, so I've got this precision machined block here, 30 degree. So I should be able to either put it this way or this way after I clean the ways and run my new flat up against it. And that'll be the way that I know that I've clocked my hex correct. I've never done this before, so we'll see how it goes. That's where that goes. That's where all 3 of those go.
Yeah. You set those anywhere.
Look, got a triangle.
It's got rounded points.
It does have rounded points. So I cut it off in the bandsaw viciously. Now, as much as I'm sure you guys are huge fans of my dad rock original songs, I think we can skip the second half of the hex and jump right ahead to my first big oopsie, which wasn't that bad of an oopsie, but it felt a little stupid. Yep, I wasn't used to how slow the power feed on this mill turned off if you switched it into neutral and it coasted into the edge of the part that hadn't been cut, and the tool pressure was too much, so it kicked the part a little bit. And of course it kicked up, and then we did this. It's now a hex bar with a crescent moon cut in it, because I was a ding-dong.
Yay.
Now that my piece of hex stock had been created, with its special custom variable width hex, and also with the extra special crescent moon on the one side at the one end, it was time to cut it up into pieces to chuck up in the lathe to start making adapters. This 491 has 4 terminal checks, one for each valve and one for each piston, I needed to make 4 adapters. So we go to the bandsaw and start cutting the stock down into the lengths that we need to actually go take to the lathe. All right, well, we got the first one mounted in the chuck here. And I guess we can face off the end, as is tradition. That's pretty good. I don't really have my tool terribly well aligned for facing, but it's got enough. It'll face it. It'll be okay. So I'd been talking with my buddy Paul, whose voice you just heard, about a machining YouTube channel that he enjoys, and unfortunately I can't remember the name. Perhaps if Paul watches, he can type it in the comments for us. But the machinist in that video always says that if you don't face your parts off, there's nothing to separate you from the animals. So, as is tradition, it's best to face your part off to start. So we went ahead and faced the part here. But next, what we have to do is we have to turn both of the ends. We want a little piece of hex in the middle, and then our 2 different threads, one for the pipe, one for the fitting, on either side. One's 3/4 straight thread, and the other is 3/8 NPT. So the first step is to turn it down. But 3/8 NPT is a tapered thread, which means that it slowly increases in diameter as you work up the taper. So I have to set up the taper on the lathe. So let's see how to do that. Voila, we've fixed. We need to set the taper. This is National Pipe Thread, which is 3/4 inch per foot. So our lathe has this handy mechanical taper attachment. It basically sets how far the cross feed of the lathe, which is one of the dials you can set, will automatically force the carriage over that holds your tool post as you move towards the part or away from the part. And so when I loosen the couple bolts, I can then adjust and set the taper based on the gauge. And then there's 2 more bolts that lock the taper to the actual lathe itself and then to the crossfeed. And that essentially locks out the crossfeed dial. So I can no longer really use it when I'm making parts. I'm moving it, just barely. There we are. I guess I'm fighting the crossfeed, that's why. That's 1.5 inches. We want 3/4. Give it to me, come on. Just a little bit. There we are, 3/4. So now we tighten down the attachment. And then tighten it down to the block here to actually enforce it. And this one as well. And now this will force the crossfeed to follow the taper profile. And now the trick that Ricky does, that's a really neat trick. Let's see if we can, oh, is that aluminum? How dare a lathe part not be made of steel? The trick that Ricky does is he gets a magnet like this guy, these Mighty Mags, and he puts an indicator on right here. Sure. And so he can check as you're going through for however much you feed to make sure it's moving. Because we crab it over all the way. That's the real secret with this taper. There's enough slop in our bronze nut that holds the shaft together that it won't work unless you crab it over. So you can see as I'm feeding now, you can see the tapers, and it's pretty significant compared to it. But if you go somewhere in the middle here and you feed, you see how delayed it is? Yeah. So you have to crab it over. And that's what I'm worried about cutting the threads, because normally you back out with this. I guess if I zero this and come back to the same zero every time, it should be okay. But so what I want to do now is I've got both of these indicators, so we need to make sure that we're actually cutting a 3/4 taper or close to a 3/4 taper. So if I park vaguely on, that guy's on 0. Now this guy's on 0. So it's 3/4 per foot of travel. So that ratio, let's see what that comes out as. So for every 0.0625 we go on this, we should get 1, theoretically, right? Okay, so if we go 0.0, so that's 62.5 thou. So if I go 62.5 thou, there's 62, that's about 62 and maybe 63. We've gone about 1. So that's, I mean, that's really going to be as close as we can get.
Yep, verified the tape.
And at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world if it's not the exact taper, because it's pipe thread and it's tapered, and if the tapers are slightly different, it'll still seat home. But we can verify, and we know that we're feeding that. So now we need to turn down to the major diameter.
That's what I was wondering, what the diameter is going to be.
So I have it measured on my drawing, my little drawing for what we're doing.
There you go.
So the large diameter, major diameter at the end is 0.675, and at the beginning is about 0.650.
So you got
We'll be shooting
675.
Yeah, and right now it's inch across the flats, and the flats are going to be the smallest. So
200 to take off.
we're gonna be putting some cuts in it first. I'll get it round, and then we'll start measuring it. So this is crabbed all the way, and we're going to be feeding on the cross slide here. So it's going to be feeding less than we think it's going to be feeding, because I'm feeding thousandths on it. I guess I could put this straight up if I really wanted to, but I want to leave it kicked for threading, so, and I don't really want to mess with it. So I think we'll just leave it and then just do some measurements and see what it does.
So a little mechanical terminology jargon for you. When we're talking about the major diameter, we're talking about the diameter on the outside of the threads. When you cut threads in something, you have a major diameter, which is the exterior. If you put calipers on it, that's what you can measure. And then you have a minor diameter, which is the diameter that's in the valley of the threads. So you're cutting a V shape all the way along. Major is the outside, minor is the inside. And you need to have both of those about correct, plus or minus a little bit, to ensure that the nut or the pipe fitting or whatever you have is actually going to thread into the part that it needs to.
And now we've got a custom chamfered taper slightly hexagonal thing. All right, so we'll go 0 there. I don't know, we'll feed in 20 and see how it does. This guy measures, these are diameter measures. This is a newer machine.
Oh, okay.
If you ever ran the machines at Mike's shop, those were radius measures, but this is diameter measures. So 20 ought to not be too rocket sciencey.
If you set it for 10, you're actually taking off 20.
Well, no, with on one of those, yes, but
those.
this, yeah, if you set 10, it's gonna cut 10. Yeah. I can live with 676. I don't think the tolerance on pipe thread is that much.
Calipers.
Yeah, I don't think we'll need the mics. And it's hard to measure tapers with the mics too, because the mic has that thickness and you have to read at the center of the mic.
Yep.
So that's a single point in time. Oh yeah, I cut like 3/4. Okay, well I accidentally made more room for myself. My flats are gonna be smaller though. Might look a little goofy. Okay. So now we need to get set up to cut threads. And it is 3/8 national pipe taper, or national pipe thread. So 3/8 18. So 18 threads per inch. So we need to be in the 18. 18 is C and this column. There's 18. Lever on head needs to be on C or E. seems to be in. And lever on head is now E. Lever on box needs to be C to get 18. That's on A, so now we're on C, kick that way. So, well, that's scary fast. That didn't get in. That was 179. So now we want to just go until we just kiss it. Oh God, that's way out of round. So the trick is to pick up on the same number on the screw each time with the feed.
So for the people who've actually machined things and single-pointed things on a lathe before, you probably just cringed because you probably saw what I did. Well, it took me quite a bit to actually figure out what the hell I did and why it wasn't making sense. And we'll jump ahead to when I figured out what was going on.
Ever have one of those moments where you feel really stupid because you haven't done something in a long time? It's just like I'm turning it. Why didn't it work? Why didn't it work? So I got a test piece and a thread gauge. Threads weren't working. And they are now. Just messing with settings. Feels like it's labeled wrong. Nope. This is the feed lever. This is the thread lever. I was grabbing this one. Gotta grab this one at the time on the dial. Oops. All right. So I'm gonna re-engage the taper. Try again now that I got my head on sideways. I mean straight. Figured out my stupidity, Norm. It was not the machine and the levers. It was the idiot pulling the wrong lever. I was grabbing this one. And you gotta grab this one.
Actually, hate it when they grab the wrong lever.
Yes. Yes. Particularly when I'm supposed to be making parts and being intelligent about it.
What are you making?
I'm making some chingaderas. Yeah, special coupling.
Coupling for the terminal checkouts on 91.
He said. Try 69 because it's, you know, funny. 4. Thread gauge. See how stupid we are. It's even offset. This is just the stupidest of stupid. I need to get one setup going. It appears to be 18 threads per inch. Okay. Sending it. 5 more.
I just gave it 3.5 foul.
Yep, 1018 steel, as mild as it is, can be quite the unfortunate thing to deal with as a novice machinist. I've cut threads on it before, and it's bit me before just like this. On the last pass, even with a light cut, all the threads that I'd cut tore out. The peaks were gone. There were only valleys, and this part became scrap. So, time for another one. But to save you a little heartache, we'll pick up where this part left off.
Now that's scrap. Oh yeah, it does. It's doing much more gooder this time.
Well, you got lube. That helps.
Well, lube and running it. Well, no, the speed's actually the same. I'm just taking less cut. Barely threads in there.
Another couple passes.
Yeah, probably. I might have been a smidge oversized too. We'll just take a couple little ones and pray to the 1018 steel gods. So we got 1 thread, 2 thread, 3 threads. A little more would be nice. Oh yeah. Yeah, baby. Can someone bask in my glory real quick? You're gonna come bask in this glory? Good sir, would you thread this on my nipple?
Wow. Oh, look at that.
Feel the smoothness.
The smoothness.
You feel the smoothness.
Muy excelente.
That's muy excelente.
Nice.
It's very smooth.
I needed some sort of like, oh yeah, it's your birthday moment after I scrapped the first one, but
That's awesome.
that's
Quick one, drop it.
Oh, he doesn't care if I drop that. Yeah. Drop a wrench on.
oh. I'm excited about that.
Nice.
Yay!
There it is. Guess we'll keep you.
I did a thing. More brandy.
Well, there's one end.
There's one end of 8 ends to make.
Well, now you've got to hold. You get to drill a wee hole.
I've got to drill a
You
wee
do that
hole.
after it's all done.
No, probably not the last thing. On my list, I was gonna, let's see, cut like, turn and taper, cut the national pipe thread, put the coupling on, turn the straight end, cut the straight thread, through drill, and then
Oh, okay.
face the,
Two drills. Makes sense.
yeah, that way it's strongest for as long as possible. Not that I'm putting a lot of clamping force on it, but if you're clamping a solid piece versus a hollow section.
So how much are you gonna have, like a 1/4 inch of body?
I was planning on 5/8, but I think it's going to be a lot less than 5/8 now. I think it's going to end up being, what, how long is this thereabouts? This is
Well, hell,
not
3/8
proper.
3/8 would work, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit more than 3/4 right there.
Right.
So yeah, so that's an 1/8. So I mean, maybe 3/8, a 1/2 inch. Enough to put a wrench on.
Get a crescent wrench on it, right?
Enough to put a wrench on. It'll be fine. We can thread a coupling on. Super nice and easy. So we'll bite on the coupling. Just want to kiss that sharpening board. There's not going to be much of a hex in these things, and it's going to be a very large hex compared to everything else. But you know, this is my first like make this part that doesn't exist project ever. So. exactly 750. Cutting 14 inch when we single point it. Now that we're at diameter, 14 is B. And here, 14 line up in the slot. It is B all the way up, and we're still in the E range right here. 14 threads per inch, sir. Getting pretty. I'll try some lubricator line. Okay, we can get a couple threads on that. But then it kind of comes up hard, so one more. Just kiss it. Kiss it in a little bit.
I know you've been waiting for it. You ready for the next oopsie? This is how you know you shouldn't rush to try and finish something in a day. If you're tired and not paying enough attention, this can happen.
Wrong dial. No! Alright, we'll just take the same cut again and see if we can fix it. Idiot. Oh, that could have been so much worse. Well, it doesn't look pretty, but it'll probably work. Well, almost there. I had a little oopsie, but it is salvageable. How you know that I should be done for the day, but I like to start done. Okay. Not tight enough. Don't leave the chuck key in the spindle. Change tools. Cutty boy. To center drill this. We gotta deal with the tailstock here. Now it's got a hole in it. And now I need to center drill it. Which means another collet. Or not, well, actually I need to through bore it. That is so not centered. I've been crap out of that when I did that. Oh, I feel stupid, but it'll work. And so now we do the opposite of what your drill press does, and we spin the part and ram a stationary drill bit into it. got a hole in it.
Got a missing thread too.
Yeah, pay no attention to that. Or the fact that it's a little bent. Some idiot grabbed this one instead of this one to pull the threads out, and then, yeah, I ran into the nut a little bit, bent it a little bit, and then, yeah. But it still threads both things, and it's got a hole through it, so it'll work. But I need this to be not here at the moment. So it's in my way. Go sit up there. Think about what you've done. Caused confusion and delay. Alright, so I should be able to feed in on this. That's all I can bear for the day, I think. Beer 30! It is beer 30, but you have a chingadera for your choo-choo. 1 of 4. And this is a special, one-of-a-kind, limited edition release that is slightly not straight, with an off-center bore on the one side, and custom dual thread profile, where it's got one set of threads that's 14 threads per inch and one set of threads that's 2 threads per inch, but it's not as deep. So this is some like really high quality work. Oh, I need to show the camera what it looks like. Oh, yeah, that's actually a good idea. Off center hole, centered hole. It's fine. There it is. That's the thing. We're making these. What's the title of this video? How many times can I f up while running the lathe and not have it cause a problem?
And here it is in service. Despite all of my best efforts to screw this part up and all of the little issues along the way, I did actually complete the part, and you can see it right here on the locomotive. The adapter made in this video is the one specifically on the terminal check to the valve, which is a little bit harder to see to the right, and because there are many other duties to do, and Ricky came in to volunteer the next day, Ricky finished off the other 3 in a day after I spent literally 2 days ruining just one. So that's the benefits of lots of experience. This is a look ahead at an upcoming video on the channel where we do a little bit of a study about how the terminal checks and the mechanical lubricator operate on the 491. Let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see that. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure you click the like button, subscribe if you're new here, and of course, thanks as always to the ES&D Train Crew. I'll let this video run a little bit so you can listen to the engine work. I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for watching.